welcome race fans to Chase race number 2 of the Dynasty stock car. Excuse me, I have to stifle a sneeze. Of course, the moment I started speaking is when everything decided to... Oh, hi, my name is Carlos, and joining me is unfortunately not Will. Ooh. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Everybody say hello to my Saturday commentator, or the person I produce usually on Saturdays, Andre Grambush. Andre, please take over.
Race fans, welcome to Talladega. Things have already gone off the rails, but you know, you expect that at Talladega. Things never go as planned here at this 2.7 mile super speedway. Carlos, thanks for having me on. Looks like practice getting pretty close to wrapping up. We got some weather information on screen, the temperature, all that good stuff as per usual. And I don't think the weather's going to play too much of a factor here, Carlos. I mean, it's super speedway racing. Maybe the breeze on the backstretch might play a little bit of a part here, but the most part, it's going to be about door-to-door competition.
Yeah, well said. And actually, weather is playing a factor here tonight at Talladega, but not in Talladega and the virtual Talladega or the real life one. It's mostly playing a factor for Will Tiller, and unfortunately he's kind of located again in the path of another hurricane, which sucks for Will, but you know, hopefully everything will be okay. So that's why Will's not going to be joining us here tonight, and instead, of course, legendary Andre Grand Orchestra. Is that what my phone auto-corrected to me when I was parked in my car? But yeah, thank you once again to Andre Grambush for popping in here last minute, helping us out. We are currently in qualifying here, but before we take a look at what's going on in qualifying, let's take a look at the points. Of course, we already finished race number 1, which was a gateway, and we're now in race number 2 at Talladega. And if I can pull that up and make sure it's bigger on my end for sure. Here we go. We see Nick Delicado, clearly the most dominant driver this whole season. Didn't really have the best race for him, didn't finish where he wanted to. Thankfully for him, that massive points that he had kind of helps him still to retain the lead, but that advantage he had is now gone. He only has a 6-point lead over Paul Hemus, Tom Ogle in 3rd, Robinson 4th, Hess in 5th, and then we see DJ Weeks, Seth Rawls, Sam Brochu, Ty McIntosh, Johnny Eckert, David Westergreen, and John DeVaro running out your 5th all the way down to 12th here in the Chase standing. Of course, the chase for this cup brought to you by C. Warren at NASCAR.com. So if you need tickets I just had it right here. Where did my advertisement go? If you need tickets to any of the if you need tickets to any NASCAR race at Darlington, Martinsville, Richmond, or the all-new Chicago Street Circuit, which I believe, Andre, those tickets just came out today. So contact Davis at cwarren at NASCAR.com. So thank you so much for sponsoring the Chase. It's going to be a blast here, race number 2. And, well, let's see what's going on here in the qualifying. Andre, are you seeing any times being put up right now?
Let me take a look here. We do have some qualifying times. Looks like Andrew Hess is top of the board right now.
Oh, well.
And as I say that, he immediately gets demoted by Tom Ogle in the 83 machine. He posts a 53.586, about a tenth faster than Hess. 3rd place is going to be Joey Hickox. He's in 53.653, so very close times there. Ogle really the only driver to break out of that 0.6 of a second bracket down into the 5, so a lot of speed under the hood of that 83. And qualifying here, of course, is always going to be really close. The tactic is going to be to run the high line on your out lap and make sure you wind that car up as much as possible, especially with that added 5th gear we have now. And then on that 2nd lap, you want to get right down onto that yellow line, which I'm watching Ogle right now. He has been following that yellow line religiously, not going underneath it, but just keeping those tires right on it. And we're going to see if he can post a 2nd lap time here. Can he improve as he crosses the line? Not an improvement.
No, I never really know if I really should take below the apron on Talladega. I know at Daytona you should, when you're crossing the line, go dip below the apron. But I feel like in Talladega, you're going to be losing a lot of speed when you dip below the apron and then transition back up front before you cross the line. So I don't know if that ever really works. But my question to you, Andre, is let's go to 1 to 10. How important is qualifying at Talladega?
That's a tough question. It depends on what your tactic is for the race. If you're one of the guys that wants to try to get out front and just steer clear of the pack so that you're not part of the big one when it strikes, it's very important. But at the same time, if you don't get the best run and you do start in the back, these kinds of tracks do present a lot of passing opportunities. So you can work your way through the field. And we're going to see a lot of passing. So it's not like a track like Pocono, let's say, where if you qualify out front, you have a clean run, it's going to be really hard to pass you. We're not really going to see that kind of racing here. So it is important, but maybe not as much as other tracks. So on your question, scale 1 to 10, I'm going to give qualifying right about a 5 or a 6, right in the middle.
Really? That's interesting. I was honestly thinking maybe a 3, maybe a 4 at best. Because I just feel like it really matters where you are at the end. And because in the beginning, you can really position yourself where you want to be. But qualifying is over. Let's cue up that grid music. And then let's go over here with the qualifying results and see tonight's actual starting lineup. That's the wrong graphic I tickered. There we go. Ming Hong is going to be your pole sitter for tonight. I believe this will be his second pole of the season. Johnny Eckert qualifying in second. Tom Ogle third. Josh Robinson is starting tonight's race in fourth. David Westergreen, who of course, shout out to David Westergreen, sponsoring tonight's race and choosing to call it the At3YTV 225, presented by DWest. So we're not Twitter verified, and we're also not Twitter Blue verified either. So neither of those two are going to be. You're going to be seeing that from us, but it's still us. That's our Twitter handle. Sixth place is going to be Nick Antelicato, your points leader. Andrew Hess in seventh. Giovanni Ochipinti in eighth. Fred Anderson ninth, and Seth Rawls is going to be starting tonight's race in 10th.
And looking just outside the top 10, we got Joey Hickox with a 53.653, 1,000ths of a second outside of that top 10. And his outside in 12th, it's going to be Sam Brochu. Behind them, you got Gilberto Javier in 13th, and 14th is going to go to Jake Bustos. Vincent Isabella is going to be P15 alongside DJ Weeks in 16th. 17 and 18 going to go to Barrett Polhamus and Ty McIntosh. And 19 and 20 is going to go to Zach Evans, Dallas Mahand. Behind them, you got some drivers that, the last driver to post a time in 21st is going to be Adam Kulikowski. And then you got a whole slew of drivers that opted not to post a time. John DeBarrow, Vic Bloom, Frank Hughes, Daniel Lewis, Davis Warren, and John O. Lynch down in 27th. So those last six drivers, did not post a time. And, we talk about it quite a bit, Carlos, but that is the strategy for a lot of these guys, is you either start at the front or you start in the back. But I don't think anybody wants to be in the middle of the pack right when everything's heating up at the beginning here.
Yeah, it's kind of reason as to why I'm not really thinking too much on where where qualifying is. But for tonight, there are some other important things we do need to talk about. And number one is some of the stage information here for tonight. Now, I did have it open, but unfortunately, I must have accidentally closed it, or something must have happened. But tonight, it is as normal, two stages. With remember, for the people who don't tune in regularly, cautions do not come out at the end of a stage. Stage 1 is going to be at the end of lap 25, and stage 2 is going to be at the end of lap 50. So that's going to be a 25-25, and then I believe 49 lap run there at the end. That should make it 99 laps. I think my math is wrong out there somewhere. We'll figure that out here in just a little bit. Other notable things, we are using the standard Talladega iRacing provided setup, sim-generated weather, with 3 attempts at a green-white checkered, and the starting track state, which is not really going to matter too much here at Talladega, is 15%. Every driver is going to have 4 sets of tires, including the one they start the race on, so 3 Ampere road, and the fuel limit is 75%. Andre, I believe I forgot to tell you that part.
All right, so a 75% fuel capacity. That means you're going to be coming down pit road a little bit more often than usual, which is always a good time at Talladega and Daytona, man. Getting into pit road is chaos here, I think more so than any other track, just because you've got such a wide runoff, and of course everybody trying to pit together so they can keep that drafting ability and the draft partners with them as they come in. That'll be fun to see, so we're presuming we get some green flag runs. But the pace car is off into pit road, and it is going to be Min Hong leading us to the green flag alongside that number 90, Johnny Eckert. You told me a little bit about Johnny. Carlos, he said that in this particular league, he seems to have some bad luck. Let's see if he can turn that around with a front row
Yeah,
start
he seems
tonight.
to have he has some bad luck. He makes well, not some. He makes quite a few amount of mistakes in this specific league alone, and that's something he's admitted himself. So green flags out. These drivers are already racing here. Remember, 25 lap stage 1, 25 lap stage 2 at the end of lap 50, and then a 35 lap stage 3 or final stage there. But side by side, these drivers go all the way through turns 1 and 2, and it kind of looks like they're still running qualifying or pace laps, I should say.
Yeah, really neither lane got an advantage there. I think the number 90 did get out to an advantage ever so slightly, but then the bottom lane pulled right back up to him. So we're going to see through 3 and 4. I would think the bottom lane pulls ahead here just by virtue of having the shorter way around the track, but that drafting is really powerful up top, and actually it's going to be the 90 getting out ahead. Actually, he is clear of the number 3 now. So Eckert to the point with help of the 30 behind him. He's not ducking down, though. He's not immediately throwing crazy blocks. He's sticking with his high line, trying to pull them forward and kind of keeping with this momentum they got up here, which that's always a choice you have to make when you're at this kind of track. Do you slam the door on the guy that you just passed? Do you stick with the line and stay loyal? Or, how do you handle it? It looks like the 90 is going to stay up there as we go 3 wide behind them. Look at this 3 wide action, weaving back and forth a little bit.
Look at the spec map on that 0-0 machine of Giovanni Occhipinti.
Yeah, that is a fine-looking car. Very shiny. That is one heck of a spec map.
I was going to say something, but I had to stifle another sneeze. I did take some energy medication, but I don't know what's going on. As Ming Hong made some contact with the 5 of Vincent Isabella.
And that's going to put him in another 3 wide situation, allowing that lead pack of 3 cars to pull away a little bit more. I don't think that was intentional. These guys are just kind of weaving a little bit. And of course, that is pretty common at these tracks. When you pull up to the rear bumper of the car in front of you, you can't really see all that well. You're kind of judging where you are and how you should be driving based on what they're doing. And if they're weaving a little bit, then you start weaving, and then the guy behind you weaves. And it's kind of like a game of telephone where it just gets more and more drastic through the field. And ultimately right there, it came down to a little bit of contact, but no harm, no foul. Looks like everybody was able to get out, no worse for wear. And actually, these guys that got held up by that contact, they're already back up to our leaders. Pretty much nose to tail now as the bottom line tries to surge. That number 10 machine, Ty McIntosh, gained a position or 2 through that corner. Now he's going to go for another one. He's got that 25 car pushing him, giving him a pretty good shot. But right now, Carlos, I think that top line is where you want to be. I mean, there's just so much momentum up there.
Yeah, the top line, especially at a track like Talladega, where you have a longer distance to start-finish line on the front stretch, as we got the onboard camera here with Ty McIntosh trying to get that race lead on the inside, as Johnny Eckert's going to dip down below and now become the leader of the inside line. Ty McIntosh giving him a little bump there in the backstretch. I did want to talk, we're already seeing some drivers. We saw some drivers before. Now we're seeing the 23 and the number 79 all backing down below to lose some position. And of course, Will Tiller dubbed them the Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader of the league, because they're both running the red and the blue schemes, and they've been battling for the lead themselves. As Ty McIntosh goes up, goes down low, and fakes him, gets the race lead from Johnny Eckert. Is Ty McIntosh to the lead, and you saw his expression right there, a little whoop whoop, and he's up to the front now.
Yeah, and what a heel turn that was. I really thought the top line was the place to be, but all of a sudden they just kind of dropped back like you had mentioned, and that bottom line just rocketed to the front. Ty McIntosh going from 4th all the way to the lead, and he's got a ton of cars behind him pushing him, where that top line is just kind of falling apart. It's a little bit less formed up, and obviously the more cars in your line, the better. A couple cars just clipping the apron, getting into that corner. Got to be careful of that. And a little ways further back, we do still have some 3 wide action, which, plenty of room for 3 wide on this track, but you do have to be careful, especially after that contact we saw early on. McIntosh still leading over Rawls, who has been pushing him and really helping him to maintain this lead. And Delicado drops a position momentarily to my hand, but then immediately gets it back. And look at this, Carlos, another charge from the outside line. Can they come from 5 car lengths back and try to take the lead?
I surely believe they can. This is a little bit different from what we saw in the opening 2 weeks of the season, where we ran the duels, and then where we ran the actual race number 1 at Daytona, where we saw in the second duel specifically, and parts of the Daytona 250, where we saw the outside line just become a train, like we see in real life for a couple years back with the Gen 6. They were just training on the outside, and nobody was doing anything. So now that we're seeing some of these drivers kind of getting a lot of momentum on the inside, we're seeing that inside becoming very strong with that outside. Well, outside's not looking too shabby either. But right now, if I was going to make a guess as to where the winner would come from, it would probably come from the inside line.
Now that was an aggressive push by Eckert to the number 4 machine. He got Indelicato to the lead, but Indelicato almost lost control. He had to put big counter steer into that thing. And that is something we got to be careful of with this next-gen car. It is so rounded on the front and rear bumper. It's almost impossible to perfectly align a shove. So when you do it, you got to do it right. And the guy in front of you kind of has to know it's coming. Otherwise, you catch him off guard, you might have a huge pile up on your hands. So these guys are doing a heck of a job. I cannot overstate how difficult it is to bump draft with these cars, but yet lap in and lap out. I mean, look at this. Min Hong pushing Eckert now to the lead. And again, aggressive pushes, weaving all over the place, but they're hanging on to it by a hair. And that's what it's going to take, Carlos. These guys are not going to just ride around and go single file and wait for the end of this race. We're in second race of the chase. Points are closer than a lot of these guys would like them to. They want to get out front.
They sure do, and apologies. Not sure why the blue highlight over the chase driver's name is just not working, but I'm working on getting that updated slowly, but I'm almost halfway done. Thankfully, I have at least some of the work saved from before. I guess it must have not been saved, or it was a corrupted save from before. But you were mentioning when Ty McIntyre or Johnny Eckert got the lead, he almost got a little loose, or I believe that was Johnny Eckert got a little loose, and that's something that we saw happen a couple times in the opening 2 weeks of the season, specifically on the inside line, exiting the corner, and even more specifically exiting 4, where the driver second place in the line would be pushing the inside line leader very hard on the exit of the corner, and that just resulted in a very, very quick snap loose. Most of the time a single car spin, although I think there were a couple major incidents there towards the end. So if you're the 10 of Ty McIntosh, you gotta be careful how hard you push Nick Indelicato. Now, of course, that was a couple months ago at this point, and there has been updates to the Gen 6 car, so it may not necessarily behave the same way, and we're seeing these drivers not necessarily behave the same way, but that's always just something you do have to keep an eye out for when you're running.
A huge moment for the number 90, John Eckert. He gave a shot to the number 5. Both these drivers kind of stuck in the sucker hole in the middle, going backwards really fast. I think that was kind of a desperation move out of Eckert to try to push that 5 forward, get something going. But both of those drivers, the pusher and the pushee, both got sideways. There's more contact up ahead. Drivers going down to the apron. That is the number 94, Fred Anderson. He's going to have to try to find a place to merge here. You've got, oh boy, a lot of cars. Everybody trying to keep him from merging. He had to stay on the apron until the corner here. He's still down there. He's sideways. Gathers it up, but now nobody to draft with. That was worst case scenario for that 94. And a few other drivers losing the draft. Andrew Hess, DJ Weeks. These guys far away from our lead pack.
Fortunately for Andrew Hess and DJ Weeks, they both have each other to kind of rely on, so they're not going to be in too much of dire straits. But Fred Anderson lost not only the draft, he lost a ton of speed, and there is nobody around him at all here in the 094 machine. Excuse me, that says 194 on the car, but on the ticker it's going to be showing up as 094, so we'll have to use our imagination on this one. But Fred Anderson, nobody at all, and he's still kind of trying to build up speed. Of course, these cars are no longer on restrictor plates like they were for a couple decades, but they're running, I believe they're called tapered spacers, so it's a similar type of effect as restrictor plates.
Tell you what, John Eckert has not put himself in a comfortable position for the last few laps. He is stuck in the middle, as well as the number 22 of Westergreen, just kind of not getting the draft help they really need. And what they do is they're pushing each other up front. They'll gain 5-6 positions, and then immediately drop back. So they're constantly in this sort of accordion effect, forward, backward, and they're just losing time, putting themselves in very risky situations. And now we've pretty much gone 3 wide for this entire lead pack. I mean, we had 2 uniform lines for the first 7 or 8 laps. Things are getting crazy now as we are just 3 wide all the way back. Look at this, Carlos. I mean, is there anywhere in this pack where you'd like to be? Or
oh, wow. Did you see that check up there? I apologize for that.
Yeah.
As you were talking, this whole last half lap, I don't know if it's just the way that these cars are behaving or if there was maybe a possible incident that kind of stopped halfway through. But there was a lot of checking up, a lot of moving around, even dipping below the apron on the back stretch. And then we saw a very harsh checkup on the front stretch. On 3 and 4. Now it appears to kind of single file out as we're on board with the number 6 Me Fine machine of Zach Evans. So you can see his in-car camera. I think he's got a hockey game in the background. As everybody knows, he is a big hockey fan. I forgot what team he cheers for. I'm sure he'll let us know. But big movements all around. I believe that might be Ming Hong that's moving around up and down throughout the whole backstretch and into 3 and 4. But Andre, what would you do if you're seeing this right now?
If I'm in this pack, I'm getting beneath the apron. I'm going to the back. I'm going to let these guys sort this out because I can't imagine they can get away with this too much longer. I mean, these are good drivers, very talented, but you can only tempt fate so long. And I think the amount of 3 wide racing and the amount of weaving we've seen, that is the textbook definition of tempting fate, as these guys have been just down on the apron, up towards the wall, somehow keeping it straight. But man, if I'm in it for the points and I know I got to be there at the end, I might just be dropping back a ways here on purpose because there's nowhere in this pack where I'd want to be. Down low. You're boxed in down to that yellow line. Up high, you're boxed in up against the wall, and if you're in the middle, well, you got cars on every side of you. So not a fun situation. It was almost a dead heat between McIntosh and Indelicato. Indelicato dropped back a little ways, but that number 10 machine holding on to the lead. We saw a lot of lead changes early on, Carlos, but once McIntosh got up front, he's been holding on to it pretty well. Now, the thing that oh, go ahead.
No, go, please.
I was going to say, the one thing I'm wondering is that intentional by the rest of the field behind him to say, hey, you be the fuel pig. You go out here, you burn up your fuel, not get in the draft. We're going to tuck in behind you, and we're going to save a little bit.
That's definitely a strategy some of these guys have. I know a lot of drivers do not want to be the leader, so they can specifically do this. And especially that you do not have guaranteed cautions. You know, we're running 75% fuel, so you're already running lower than usual. But also, you could theoretically go green flag the whole way. And if you can maybe save a couple laps here and there with the less fuel that you have, you could gain a couple times on everybody else, especially if you're going down paved road for fuel only. The less fuel you have to take, the less time you're wasting on a paved road. You can gain some serious time. It could be enough for you and somebody else to separate from another group of drivers and become that lead pack. So that's very important. Of course, we were looking at Fred Anderson here, still on board. He has gone a lap down very quickly, I should add. I think he was only 2 laps since that incident, 2 or 3 laps since that incident. He already found himself 1 lap down. Of course, thankfully for him, he has caught up with this pack. But I don't know how hard I would race with these other drivers knowing that you're a lap down, because all you need is a caution and you're right back into this.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Another close call up front. The number 6 machine, Zach Evans, down beneath the line. That was near disaster, but he's able to keep it going. 4 wide for a minute with the number 5. Vincent Isabella was 4 wide with the 00, the 27, and the 10. We talked about how Ty McIntosh was holding on to the lead, but he just got shuffled back through the running order. Now it is Joey Hickox up front in that 31 machine, being pushed by Gilberto Javier and Johnny O'Lynch right behind him. Johnny O'Lynch started dead last, Carlos. He was 27th on the grid. Now he's running 3rd on the inside line.
What name did you say?
John O'Lynch.
John O. Is that his middle name? I had no idea that was his middle name.
That's an initial, I believe.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but yeah, John O. Lynch from Hickox Racing, Spino Racing, currently in 3rd. He is the first, or I should say, second driver on the inside line pushing that 31. Of course, you got to be careful how hard you push the drivers, and I do think some of these, so the way that iRacing has changed the cars is allowing these drivers to maybe push a little bit more. I know the draft has been nerfed a bit. A couple other things have been adjusted and fine-tuned, but I do know one thing, as there was maybe an almost incident here on the back in the corner, is that drivers on the outside line with this different style of steering compared to the previous generation cars, you have to be careful with how much wheel input you give it, because we've seen it not only at Daytona, we've seen it at Phoenix, we've seen it at a couple of other tracks of different calibers of racing, where you maybe get behind on the steering and you try to catch back up, you give it too much steering, the car will easily go around by yourself without any help of anybody else. It's happened to me. I've done it before. I've seen drivers here do it many times throughout the whole season. So I'm sure by now these drivers are aware of that. But this is a very easy track where you maybe you get behind on your steering for a split second and try to catch back up, and then you're probably going to be going around very quickly.
And you know what compounds onto that and makes it even worse is iRacing's tendency not to give you a whole lot of force feedback at super speedway tracks. There's just something about these tracks where whenever you're driving them in a stock car, really of any kind, whether it's the next gen car, trucks, Xfinity Series, you don't really feel it in your wheel. It's very floaty, difficult to get a feel for what your car is doing. And the next gen car being as finicky as it is, like you mentioned, Carlos, sometimes you get behind the steering for just a split second and it snaps around on you, largely thanks to that diffuser in the back. It can be tough because you don't even know that you're getting behind on your steering. You might think that you're doing everything right, and you just can't feel what the car is doing on that steering wheel. A lot of drivers, when they come to these plate tracks, they have to crank the force feedback up. But you don't want to take it too far, of course, because if you're running a direct drive wheel and you turn the force feedback all the way up and you hit the wall, well, you might have a broken wrist on your hands, quite literally. The number 5 just shot up 3 positions there with the help of the number 22. It was a huge shot. And now, again, they're going to drop back. And that seems to be the reoccurring theme here for that inside middle, I guess I should say middle row here, Carlos, is they can get good runs, but they can't maintain them like the outside and the inside. There's just something about that middle groove that makes it difficult. Nonetheless, that number 5, Vincent Isabella, is continuing to push that number 10. If the 10 can get clear, he might be able to drop down low. But will he stay loyal to the drivers? Nope, no loyalty there. As soon as he saw the opening, he ducked down.
Ooh, a little checkup there from the 10. He maybe had to back off for a little bit, as Gilberto Javier Gomera had to check up just for him. Actually, we're 3 wide. Wow, did you see that run on the outside in the 19 of Daniel Lewis and Ming Hong got?
Yeah, now the 23 is going to try to take that down even further. So the 23 pushed these 2 to the lead, immediately ducked down and said, all right, my job's done. I'm going to get up to the front now. And he has a massive gap now to second place, but that may be detrimental. We all know all too well how the further ahead you get at these tracks, the quicker the drivers behind you are going to gain with that draft. So that's exactly what happened. Daniel Lewis with a huge push to 23 is able to get right back up the lead. The pusher is getting pushed, Carlos. We got the 3 pushing the 19, who's then pushing the 23. That is a scary situation.
We're seeing runs like we used to see back in the late 2000s, early 2010s of the old COT 2-car tandem caliper run. That's what I'm seeing with how quickly some of these guys are approaching the main pack. But we're seeing it with more than 2 drivers in some cases. And there is a theory that this Gen 7 car can produce 2-car tandems. I just think NASCAR is trying to possibly block it, because there's like little hints of life, but it's not enough for it to be called fully back. But we're seeing massive runs, and now's the time to do it. We're going to cross and start lap 23, which is going to give us 3 laps to go before stage number 1 ends. And for those of you new drivers new fans tuning in, there will not be a caution at the end of the stage, any stage I should say. So potential full green flag racing is still in store here tonight, and this is the way I like to see stage racing personally. But it's nice to see that leagues will sometimes follow the NASCAR rules, sometimes they'll go completely different, and sometimes they'll just modify a thing or two here. But a lot of these drivers are kind of teaming up at this point. You're kind of finding your teammates. You saw the 23 of Brochu get help by the 79 of Bear Paul Hemus, who we saw both of them earlier dropping back together, and both of these drivers have been battling for the lead multiple weeks in a row against each other. So it's nice to see them dropping back and then going back up to the front together. Of course, they got separated once that run kind of fizzed out, but they're a couple moves away from being connected once again.
And the yellow flag
Caution.
flies. We got an incident further back in the field. I believe Ochapinti and Joey Hickox may have been involved. Seth Rawls, Adam Kolakowski.
Big incident here, or at least if it wasn't big, it's a lot of drivers on their own at the same time getting involved. So I do believe this is a multi-car incident there. Let's take a look at the replay, see what happened. This will end the stage, so Sam Brochu will be your stage 1 winner.
So we're coming through the tri-oval right at the end of it, crossing the line. We're 3 wide and just not enough real estate there. He came down a little bit and then unfortunately back up the track into the 31 and then down the track. We're playing high-speed ping pong, boys.
That's not what you want to play at this track. Heavy damage for the 43. Heavy damage for the 31, I believe, as well. I don't think he had anything to do with it. Let's go on board. The many race machine.
Yeah, he was trying to skate by on the outside here, and unfortunately just wrong place, wrong time. You can see it happening up front. He makes the right call here. He goes to the high line, and then just out of nowhere.
There's got to be something broken in that car.
Oh, yeah, that's at least
you can tell right there that wheel is kind of aiming the wrong way, kind of bouncing around. So definitely something broken on that machine. So I would probably play the lottery if that car was not damaged beyond repair, if he didn't have a meatball. Also heavy damage to the 43, who also didn't have anything to do with it, just got clipped. We saw the 31 get clipped on the front, and then we're gonna see the 43 get clipped on the on the rear. If I can pull up the 43, here we go.
Yeah, so it was after the 31 got hit, the 43 was just trying to work his way down on the bottom. He had the opposite idea. It was like, okay, I'm gonna get around this down low. But it seems no matter where you went, up top, down low, there was no escape. He sees him go up, and then unfortunately, just tagged him right in the corner. You just can't plan for that. No, I mean, he was down, he was up. At that point, you're just taking a gamble. And
yeah, not only, and the suspension is damaged as well. That car is destroyed. Yes. He took a tow, yeah. So I want to take a look at the 0-0 so we can get a quick look as to what happened. So we see a 25 try to make it 3 wide, and entering the corner, I believe Giovanni just doesn't expect the 25 to kind of be there, making that 3 wide position. Kind of moves down a little. I kind of call this a racing incident, especially towards the end of the stage. If Vincent Isabella gets involved with 25, if Seth Rawls gets involved, so contact mostly to the 25, and then the 0-0 makes harsh contact with the 31, kind of shoving both of them to the outside wall. And then this is where we see the 43 go down low, because clearly the 0-0 is just stuck up against the wall, just going to hit the brakes and slow down. But because of the damage to the suspension of the 0-0, it kind of turns him around and brings him down below the track. 43 really doesn't kind of see that happening until it's too late, and then gets clipped. And, of course, that destroys that right rear suspension.
Now, while this wreck was pretty unfortunate for a lot of drivers, one driver that needed it was Anderson. Fred Anderson is going to be the lucky dog after that early incident, getting trapped down on the apron and kind of getting a half spin in and then going a lap down. Well, he's getting that lap back, so he's back in the game.
Yeah, well said. And Andre, can you just take over for a little bit while I update Brochu's name, because he won stage number 1.
Yes, sir. So this is going to be a good opportunity for these guys to come down pit road. Obviously, we have just raced about 24 laps before the caution came out. It's quite a bit of fuel at this track, especially when you consider the 75% fuel capacity in the league. So they're going to definitely want some fuel, maybe some tires. I can't say for certain, honestly, how tires are going to impact these drivers. Normally, I'd say tires don't really matter at a super speedway track, but I do know that iRacing has recently adjusted the tire model, and they've made the tire wear a lot more severe on most ovals. So I can only really guess how it might affect it here, but there may be some impact to the handling. The car may feel a little bit freer, a little bit more floaty through the track if you're on old tires. But either way, I don't think tires will be the priority. It's definitely getting that fuel in there, maybe getting the weight back in the car, and getting back out on track. But we do have some drivers staying out. And some of these drivers staying out
it's the opposite. These are the drivers that stayed out, during the initial wave of green flag pit stops. While we were on replay, pit road opened up, and first through 11 right now went down pit road, and this is the rest of the drivers who did not elect to go down pit road. Not sure for what reason. Maybe they were not expecting it, or maybe they weren't aware that stage 1 had ended, or whatever the case was. But these drivers are going that are in pit road now is kind of in the second run through. So at this point, everybody has gone down pit road. No, everybody has gone down pit road. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so differing strategies on when they came in, but everybody has now pit. So kind of back to a level playing field then, it would seem, as the lights are off on the pace car. Not a very long caution. We got that sorted out pretty quick, although I guess we did spend quite a bit of time looking at that replay. There was a lot to decipher there. A lot of things going on to try and pick apart.
Trying to see if anybody here is on the infield care center. And I just realized there is no infield care. Oh, there is. Okay, no, I'm not seeing anybody in there right now. I just realized I did not reply to Ty McIntosh. Ty McIntosh has a history of forgetting to turn on his webcam. Messaged me earlier saying, "Hey, is the webcam working?" Yes, the webcam is working. I just didn't. I saw you sent me a message. I did not look at what it was until right now. But stage 1 is in the books. We had 10 drivers already get points, and of course, we already had 10 drivers getting points for qualifying in the top 10. So this league provides ample opportunities to get bonus points, and a lot of drivers are making good use of it. I would be curious to see a full list of drivers who got bonus points and for what reason, because I'm kind of a data guy. I like seeing data sometimes. But it'll be pretty interesting to see who really benefits from that, who hasn't been taking advantage of it, and who's kind of been playing neutral on both sides.
I believe in one of the Discord channels here in the league, there actually is a document that shows the awards that the drivers have gotten and how many times they've gotten it. So it's kind of an interesting little thing. And you're right, it is a lot of opportunity to make up a lot of points, and I like that. Real-life NASCAR kind of abandoned the idea of bonus points once they implemented stage points. They just figured that would be enough, but here in this league, you got a lot of bonus points, which I'm a pretty big fan of, as Daniel Lewis is going to lead us to the green with a good jump, and unlike the initial start, we're not going to stay side by side. It's going to be the 19 all on his own, and behind him it's going to be side by side Min Hong and the 23 of Sam Brosio, our stage 1 winner. David Westergreen, he really worked his way up front, never was able to quite get to the point. Now he's got a fresh opportunity at it, fresh tires. Racing's a little bit calmer up front than it was a few laps ago, largely single file up front, so we'll see what he can do as that number 13 machine, or number 3, I apologize, is locked on the bumper of the 19. Now, going back to that tandem comment you made, Carlos, so I think you're right. I think this car could produce tandem drafting. But I think there's 2 things in the way of that. Number 1, what we already mentioned earlier, the curved bumpers. Front and rear bumpers, making it very difficult to align. And number 2, temperature. There is not a very big opening in the front of this car. And this car has a higher tendency to overheat than the Gen 6 car. So when you block that off, you're going to be really raising those engine temps. And I actually saw in practice, while we were just kind of chatting pre-race, I was following along with, I want to say it was Westerbrook, but it may have been somebody else, who was tandem drafting with somebody. And within 2 laps, they blew up their engine. They went up in a plume of smoke. And so you have to watch those temps if you're actually going to attempt it, which it looks like, Carlos, Min Hong is really trying this tandem draft. Every time they get to a corner, he is locked to that 19.
Oh, that's what I was talking about right there, exit the corner. Oh, that was close.
That was scary.
Smooth hands by the 19. Wonder, I don't think NASCAR does this anymore, but there used to be the Allstate Good Hands driver of the race, or move of the race, and I would say that's one right there.
Yeah, that we've had a few of those so far tonight, but that's definitely one of the biggest saves for sure. As a number 5 with a good shot from the number 90. Where in the field has Eckert not been tonight, Carlos? He's been up front. He's been all the way in the back. Now he's all the way up front again, pushing that number 5 of Isabella to the point. Now he's going to drop down low, but Eckert's going to remain on the high side, trying to get a draft from Indelicato and the number 10. Now, Ty McIntosh, not a bad car to have pushing you. We know he's fast. He led a lot of laps early on. And now it looks like a little bit of a checkup on the bottom lane. He's going to get the 19 squirrely, and that gives the solo lead to Eckert in the number 90, with number 4 still pushing him. think that number 4 is going to drop down low when he can. Nope, he stays up high for the time being. With the number 10 right behind him, that inside line dropping back now. It's not as formed up, Carlos. You can see them losing cars, and look at that. A huge shift. The number 10 and the number 4 drop down low, and it works. To the point goes the number 4.
Number 4, Nick Delicato, the winningest driver of the season, won the first 4 races overall. Won the first 4 races of the season, 6 overall, and just a very dominant driver. He's, this type of track doesn't really show the traditional race for Nick Delicato. Nick Delicato usually kind of hangs, not in the back, but like towards maybe the lower half of the top 10. Does his thing, takes care of his stuff. In the long runs, he kind of builds up speed and passes a lot of drivers. But when you least expect it towards the end of the race, he is just there. And he's there with the fastest car, with the best strategy, with all the momentum. And I would say 9 times out of 10, he gets that victory. He started the playoffs with a 60% winning rate. He won 6 of the first 10 races. And, we've only had 1 playoff race so far, and now we're in race number 11. And Nick Delicato did not have a good chase opener. I keep on calling it playoffs, but he did not have a good chase opener. Got involved in an incident, and pretty much his massive points lead going into the chase just went away overnight. One of the cars! Brake Hughes. Yeah.
He just got a bad bump, got a little bit squirrely, had to go down to that runoff. Now, luckily, he had plenty of room down there to get that car recovered. I believe it was the number 6 that he kind of spun off the nose of, but he's back on track. The problem for him is that he is now out of the draft, and we saw earlier with Anderson just how quickly you will find yourself going a lap down if you're by yourself. So he may be relying on another caution. He does have some cars behind him that are going to catch him momentarily. He's got John DeBarro, Davis Warren, and Joshua Robinson all in a line in the second pack trying to get up to him, and he's actually going to duck out of the way. He's going to stay low, and that was unexpected. But yeah, 2 packs forming up front. We have some 3 wide racing, at least momentarily, as the 94 was 3 wide with the number 3 and the number 5. And that low line trying to take the lead. There goes McIntosh up to, I believe, 5th. Current leader Sam Brochu with David Westergreen in 2nd place. But man, oh man, Carlos, this is almost hard to keep track of. There's so much shuffling in the running order, and sometimes you go to these tracks and what you see a lot of drivers that they want to go single file. They don't want to take any risks. They don't really put on much of a show early on. Ooh. These guys are putting on a show.
They sure are. They kind of took it easy on the first 2 duels, and they put on a show for the Daytona 250. A really fun show overall, and they're doing that once again here tonight. Of course, they're more familiar with each other, more familiar with the car, and this type of racing. So they're able to take more risk and have it pay off. The Daytona 250 was a relatively clean race. Most of the incidents, because there were a couple incidents, were single car issues from what we talked about with the inside car leader being pushed too hard on the edge of the corner and getting loose and spinning out, or drivers on the outside line just getting behind the steering, spinning out. I don't really think we had more than maybe 1 or 2 multi-car wrecks that were could be considered the big one or the middle one, whatever it was. So relatively clean racing. We're still having that much of the same. We did have 1 multi-car incident that was relatively big in terms of hits. And thankfully, these drivers are racing virtually, so they're not really at risk of having any body harm or bodily physical harm, I should say. Unless they're running one of those direct drive wheels all the way cranked up to 100, which I may be incorrect, but I don't think that's a wise idea.
Yeah, maybe not. Now, just an interesting thing to note, we were talking about how big the runs these guys are getting really are. The 19, last time around, gave a huge bump draft to the rear end of that number 4 machine, and in response, after Nick got that bump, he came across the driver radio. He said, "I've never taken a hit like that in my life." And it was one heck of a bump draft. And it really goes to show, these guys are getting big runs. It's just about being smart with them, trying to find out where you can take them, if you can take them anywhere, and maybe backing off if you can't. And a lot of it you know, you mentioned Carlos, these guys are more familiar with one another. They're more familiar with the car. Knowing who can take a bump draft and who can't, that's crucial. Because some drivers, you know, you might not want to come up 20 mph faster and push them into the corner because maybe they can't handle it. Other guys, maybe you're a little bit more confident in what they can do or what they're expecting, and they know that you're going to give them a bump. But, you know, you got to race each driver as an individual. You got to know their driving style. And if you can do that, you can keep it clean. But I don't think that number 4 was expecting that push. And it did ultimately get him out of the lead. The car got unsettled. He had to lift. And now he's kind of marred back in the field here. Currently P6 on the outside line. The number 10 working his way around the bottom line. Current leader, 23.
Now we're just looking back at this second pack, which is roughly 6 seconds back or 5.5 seconds back of the main pack. And this is being led by the number 6 of Zach Evans, got John Navarro, Big Bloom, Josh Robinson, Tom, a couple other drivers in there. And they're just taking it easy. This second pack, this is the pack where you would probably find myself, maybe even find you, based on how you were talking about earlier, trying to get out of the big picture type of side-by-side racing, the dangerous one. And, you know, they're all single file. They're all running relatively smooth laps, and I believe they are outpacing the main pack. Yeah, they're actually outpacing the main pack. Never mind. I read that wrong. I thought that was a 48.79, but that's actually a 49.79. So they're actually running slower than the race leader. I'll pull up a little graphic here for you guys. It's going to have your current race leader and Zach Evans in 13th. That I did not hit show. Here we go. You can see it right there. These last couple laps, they've been slower by over a second. Well, with the exception of lap 37, but they've been relatively slower to the race leader, Paul Hemus. So they're just taking it easy. The 36 decided to go side by side, but the majority of the field is taking it easy. And this is just the pack to not get involved in an incident as we're rapidly approaching 10 to go in stage number 2.
Yeah, that is the risk versus reward. You know, if you fall a little bit further back, you form a second pack, you are generally a little bit safer. If there's an incident, you're pretty secure in the fact that you're not going to be in it, as long as the wreck isn't in that second pack.
Yeah. And it's
but also,
before.
it has happened. But also, you got to be careful how far back you get, and you got to make sure that you've got enough cars in that pack to at least maintain the pace of the leaders. Because otherwise, you put yourself in a situation like Anderson was in earlier, where you're kind of just riding around hoping for a caution, because you're not going to catch them on pace. You get far back enough, you're not going to catch them on strategy or with a good pit stop. Literally a caution with a rack and stack may be the only way to get back up there. And that's not a situation you really want to be in, especially later in the race after you've already seen some attrition. Maybe some cars are out of the race, so the likelihood of caution has gone down statistically. But we'll see how it plays out for them. You know, they're definitely in a pretty safe situation, maybe just not the best point situation.
Yeah, you can never rule out a caution happening anytime at Talladega or Daytona, and even Atlanta nowadays. But I do know this, with this second pack kind of being maybe slightly bigger than the first pack, you're eliminating drivers from being in this main pack, eliminating the chances of there actually being an incident on the main pack. So less drivers, more room to spread around, more chances of possibly catching a mistake. And less chances of a caution overall. But all it takes is that just one caution for it to come out and kind of ruin it for a lot of these drivers. But I did want to talk about quickly the I had something in my head, but it went away. I was hoping that by the time I got to this point, I would remember what it was, but I can't quite see it. That being said, I did also want to talk about just the overall dangers that these drivers are going, and we're seeing the hard pushes and everything, and we're seeing drivers get loose, and we're also seeing a lot of drivers correct these things. But I do kind of wonder if it's, you know, all the drivers either getting lucky or skilled or a combination of both, or if it's something with the car kind of being able to drive easier and catch mistakes. Because we've seen like 4 or 5 drivers get pushed too hard, get sideways, some lose some positions, but none have really actually spun out, with the exception of the first caution, the first incident we saw, where, of course, that was a quarter panel hit. Anybody's going to be spinning out from that, but we haven't actually seen a car spin out either by themselves or getting pushed from behind, and I don't know if that's because of the car or if that's a combination of skill and or luck.
Yeah, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think definitely there's a lot of skill involved. These guys have made some really impressive saves, and um, we talked about it a little bit at the top of the broadcast, but this car just isn't as easy to recover from a spin. It's almost like an Indy car. Once it starts to go around and the air is no longer aligned properly, it just wants to keep spinning out. And there's not much that counter steering or throttle input's going to do to bring you back around. So the fact that these guys are able to really correct these issues before it reaches that point of no return that we've seen so often tells me these guys know what they're doing. But, luck does play a factor too. Sometimes, especially on iRacing with the rather unpredictable slip angle, sometimes you get in a slide that you think is relatively normal that you're going to be able to correct, and you feel pretty confident in that. And all of a sudden, the car just does something wonky. It does something weird, and you're sliding through the infield. So, a lot of skill, a little bit of luck. Maybe we'll call it 60-40.
Well, from what I've heard, a lot of that happening is because of the brand new rear diffuser helping out. That the drivers have all the extra aero grip, the downforce from the diffuser that's helping them, and then they get sideways, and then they still have the help of the diffuser, but then when the slip angle becomes too much, and then the diffuser kind of ceases to actually work like it should, that's when all the grip kind of goes away, and for at least from what I've heard, that's what you're describing. The car's getting sideways, predictable, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah, as we have a 3-wide moment for the lead, the 23 has to back out of it. He thought better of it, and down low, looks like that number 86 machine, John Lynch, is going to try and take the point, but 3 wide again, the number 90, ping-ponging off of 2 cars, contact with several machines. He's able to keep it going in the right direction, ducking back up to the high lane. That was seconds from disaster, but man, oh man. Oh! That right there, Carlos, you mentioned the All-State good hands of the race.
Yeah.
Johnny Eckert made one heck of a save right there.
Johnny Eckert's been known for making great saves. We saw Ty McIntosh trying to split the duo of Bear Paul Hemus and Sam Brochu successfully, kind of dipping down low, entering the corner. Sam Brochu thought about going down low and blocking him, but wisely decided not to, because that would have been another caution and possibly a multi-car caution to boot. But unfortunately, that also resulted in Sam Brochu losing positions, going from second all the way down to, well, I believe he was 8th now. He's now gained up a little bit, and that, of course, also separated the 23 and the 79 as they're side-by-side at this point now.
Yeah, a lot of side-by-side through the field, and the running order has just been completely turned on its head from what we saw just a few laps ago. Right now, John Eckert is leading the way in that number 90. He's got the number 22. Let me tell you, David Westergreen has to get, like, the Team Player of the Race award. I've seen this man push so many cars to the lead, and yet rarely ever tries to get to the lead himself. Looks like he may be going for it here. A little bit of squirreliness out of the 23. 3-wide contact. The 90 is sideways. The 23 is sideways. Can they keep it going? Yes, they do. Man, oh man. 2 good saves at number 90, and the 23 as well. Can't discount what he just did there. Not only did he save the car, he's in the lead.
Yep, Sam Brochu, Bear Paul Hemus back together, reunited, and it feels so good for both of these guys as they made a move on Johnny Eckert. And Johnny Eckert, I don't know what exactly it was, but he chose to stay on the outside line. Everybody went to the inside line. That's why I was like, whoa, because it just looked to me like he was going to back off and let everybody go by here near the end of the stage. And then for whatever reason, half the field decided to go back up to the outside line and help him. Of course, the 23 and the 79 kind of working together, wanting to get to the outside line. Maybe help that a bit as, a lot of twitchy driving as, of course, we saw then the 23 and the 79 kind of just go up to the outside even further and get between those two and, separate it once again, unfortunately. But I don't know what that was, but that was twitchy driving and reaction driving by a couple drivers there.
Okay, to drop a little bit further back. Maybe had enough fun for one lap and now trying to put himself in a safer situation. John has had to make a number of saves in the last few laps alone. Another car down low, the 86, nearly coming back up into the 29, but able to avoid contact there as a huge checkup on the low line is going to allow a big bump to the number 5. He's going to get up to P4 at 22. Again, the team player of the race, I would say, Westerbrook, just doing a phenomenal job pushing these guys, putting some goodwill in the bank for later in the race, I would presume, as he finally, I believe for the first time tonight, is going to take the solo lead.
Great movement by the 22 of Wester Green. Going from the middle all the way down to the inside and the edge of the corner. And that's something that these drivers got to watch out for. A lot of them are leaving that inside line open, entering the corner. And that's, at this point, way too much momentum for these drivers to give up. We've seen the 10 of Ty McIntosh nearly perfect that. We just saw 22 get the lead by doing that. We've seen countless others do the same thing. So towards the end of the race, you got to watch out as to how much space you're giving and where. As you can easily make up a lot of time by shooting from the middle all the way down to the inside in the entry of a corner. 3 wide already for the race lead. It's a 2-car tandem again, and we got lap traffic.
Yeah, lap traffic is up ahead, and I don't think he really knows where the leaders want him. There were conflicting reports over the driver's radio as to where he should go. 4 wide, 3 of them for the race lead. The 4 uses this opportunity to try and take the point. But look at this, here comes the 79. He's going to give him a rocket boost into the corner. What a push to the number 23 of Sam Brochu. I mean, that just gained him 10 car lengths, Carlos. 1 bump.
And you mentioned earlier, 2 laps is around what they can do on a 2-car tandem. I don't expect to see the 79 get off the back bumper of the 23. These drivers are working like if they're massive teammates, and actually wouldn't be surprised if they are. They're not showing as teammates here on my telemetry contact.
The
90-79. Oh, hold it, Johnny.
Track, cars behind him.
Wow.
He saves it. What a piece of driving by Eckert.
It's not over. Your green flag is still out. Wester Green holding the lead. Vincent Isabella right behind him. These 2 drivers race on multiple leagues at the same time per week. And stage 2 winner is going to be the number 22 of Wester Green. But what an almost massive wreck between the 79 and the number 90 of Johnny Eckert.
Yeah, that could have been a whole lot worse than it was, especially when Eckert was kind of forced to drift back up onto the track, somehow avoiding all contact, and I believe he may have lost the draft just looking at it, but a small price to pay as he's on the second pack. He at least has some people to work with back here for what could have been a race-ending incident. So we're going to see he's actually working with Anderson right now, the driver who was the recipient of Lucky Dog earlier in the race when we had that caution on lap 24. So these guys are going to try to make something happen back here. And I'll tell you what, Carlos, if this second pack builds anymore, if they get any more traffic back here with them, they may find themselves with enough cars to outpace the lead pack.
Yeah, we know they have the advantage in terms of numbers, and it could have just been a decision by the drivers in the second pack to just stay behind and not necessarily run the same speed as the leaders. I've done that before multiple times in league racing in that second pack, just trying to make sure we keep a consistent gap. And well, the gap's definitely shrunk since the first time we brought it up. They were around 6 seconds, 5.5 seconds. Now they're about 2 seconds behind the race leader, so they're there. I would probably, that's cutting a little close. Maybe drop back another second, because you have the ability to catch back up. But I think with 2 seconds, it's still kind of close enough where you can still maybe get caught up in an incident.
Yeah, I mean, they're affording themselves a little bit more reaction time, but you're right. If something big enough happens, that may not be a big enough gap to completely avoid any incident. But then again, avoiding a wreck at a track like this is so unpredictable. I mean, in that caution we had earlier, the 00, unfortunately, Ocho Pinti just kind of up the track, down the track, and, out of his control. He's doing everything he can. He had the brakes locked up. The car was just kind of at the mercy of physics, I suppose. And 2 cars that were just minding their own business, both taking a different approach to how to avoid them, got tagged in it. So it's hard to really say exactly what's going to happen with all of this. But they do have enough cars, like you said. They've got the numbers that they could probably drop back a little bit further and reliably catch up. But in the meantime, David Westergreen still leading the way. He's got Vincent Isabella behind him and Nick Indelicato in third. Ty McIntosh in that number 10, he is P4. And Gilberto Javier in that 34 machine, he's a little bit further back, affording himself just a little bit of breathing room between himself and McIntosh. But he's got the 19 pushing him, keeping him from falling too far back here. And that is the game. Sometimes the guy in front of you, Carlos, wants to hang back a ways, wants to play it safe, and you're just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to ride back here. Come on, let's go. So you kind of have to pressure them into moving forward.
Yeah, and this is not what you want to see. This second pack's running a little bit more riskier than the first pack now. Is Johnny Eckert moving up to the outside line to I'm assuming give up some spots there. Oh, pit road. That's what's happening. It's green flag pit stop time.
A huge swarm of cars entering pit road 3 by 3 by 3. And I believe everybody got down to pit road speed limit. I didn't see too much tire smoke by anybody.
Yeah, everything looks to be A-okay.
See if these guys can all... Oh, no! Somebody overshot their stall. That's the 79. Garrett Paul
massive
overshoots, then backs up too far.
Oh, left side tires or right side tires only? No, left sides, I should say, yeah.
Now, even with this 2-tire stop, he's going to lose a lot of time having missed his stall. See if he cycles out with somebody to draft with. It's going to be close. Yes, he is going to be right behind the 27, so that's the saving grace for that mistake. And I believe you're going to see that next pack that didn't come in last time. They're probably, yep, here they come. Everybody that didn't come down last time, down to the apron. This time almost 4 wide getting onto pit road. They're going to sort it down to 2 wide by the time we get to the commitment cone. And I would say the second group got a much more conservative entry there. It's not quite as fast.
Yeah, well said. Very smooth. Like I said, they were all running kind of slower speeds as the 86 of Lynch. I think that's after pit road, all the way down to the bottom. Not sure why. A couple more drivers slid through their stall.
Definitely not what you want to do at a track like this where you're relying on coming out with the pack so that you can draft with them. But luckily, the amount of time they're losing, I don't think is quite enough to take them out of that draft. So after these guys get out of the pits, this pretty much should, correct me if I'm wrong, Carlos, this should complete the green flag pit cycle.
I believe it does. Is everybody else? Everybody's gone down pit road with the exception of the drivers who were involved in incidents. And honestly, all the drivers that were involved in the first caution are either still racing or they're out. And we have 3 drivers out. That's Giovanni Ocipiti, Joey Hickox, and Adam Kulikowski. Everybody else has either gone down, has fully already gone down pit road. As Megan Delicado is your race leader, but I expect him to lose that as Westergreen has a massive run, all the help in the world to the outside. My hand thought about pushing the 4, but my hand decided to go all the way up to the outside line, but I think that kind of cost him a bit. He maybe waited too much, lost a spot, maybe will lose a second spot as Johnny Eckert and the 23 are moving up. I don't know if there was contact or if that was like the luckiest movement by the 5, but that possibly avoided a big incident there.
Yeah, that we're seeing a lot of moves that come down to trying to decide if it was skill or luck, but I'm going to err on the side of skill for a lot of these. The lead pack substantially smaller than it was, a lot more separation amongst the field, which is to be expected after a green flag stop. Westergreen still leading the way. And again, I think this 22 machine's put a lot of goodwill in the bank, Carlos. He pushed a lot of drivers and got them up front. He was really willing to work with just about anybody. Now that he's in the lead, I think other people are going to be willing to return that favor, maybe push him around the track and lend a hand when he needs it. So we'll have to see how that works out for this lead pack all the way back to, I believe, that's in Delicado, I believe, the tail end of this lead pack. Let's see, 4, 5. Nope. Hong is the last car in the lead pack. And then a little bit further back, you've got... is that lap cars between these guys, actually?
No, I see this as an 8-car group. I don't know why you think Bing Hong is the end of the pack, because clearly Delicado, Eckert, and Brochu are there, and that's the top 8.
You are correct. So I think my iRacing timing and scoring might have been a little messed up there because it was showing about a few seconds between these guys, which may have been from the pit sequence that hadn't updated yet. That would be it. But yeah, 8 cars in this lead pack, which they got some speed, but I'm curious, how big is this second pack back here? Were they able to form up? Because they had the numbers prior to that sequence.
That second pack doesn't look pretty big to me, I'll tell you that.
No, they definitely got separated here. So I think we went from like 2 main packs to like 3 or 4 smaller ones.
And you can see here, 15th and back, that's where the third pack is. Actually not too far from the second pack. And these last 2 laps, they have been running faster than Westergreen in the race lead in the first pack. So if they can catch up to the second pack and form a bigger second pack, then for sure they'll be catching up to the race leader. But as of right now, they're 5.2 seconds behind, and laps are winding down. You no longer have that big grace period. At this point, you're going to have 25 laps to go very, very soon.
One interesting inclusion in this lead pack here, John Eckert in 7th. He was in the second pack after that incident right at the end of stage 2. He got sideways, dropped all the way back to the second pack, and then once he was there, you pointed it out, Carlos, he went to the outside lane and gave up more positions as he came into pit road. So he came into the pits with the second pack, left with the lead pack. He's gained quite a bit of time, and he's still got a shot at it. For everything that number 90 has been through, all the scary moments he's had, he's up here in the top 10, looking to have a really good race so far.
And we know how this next-gen car is nowadays, especially with the latest update where they introduced that the damage that accumulates over, or not over time, but over the amount of times you've hit that certain part. So Johnny Eckert doesn't really have the damage that would show for the contact that he did have with the number 79, but that part's slightly weaker. Of course, I don't expect for him to make contact with that same part again, but Johnny Eckert running a relatively clean-looking car.
That accumulative damage is something I was wondering about in this race, because we are seeing so much bump drafting, and we're seeing so many people just really giving hard hits, and we know how fragile the front of the car is with the radiator and everything being right there. I gotta wonder if you keep that up for the whole race, does that maybe come back to bite you later on? I mean, so far it doesn't seem like it has. A lot of these drivers that have been bump drafting all race long seem to be in good shape, but who knows where the tipping point is?
Yeah, and we've seen these drivers kind of race hard the majority of the first 2 stages, and then once stage 2 ended, this final stage here had started, it was like a flip of a switch of how these guys race each other. We see these drivers going side by side multiple times, massive runs, some hard blocking, some hard pushing, and then when stage 2 ended, it's mostly been single file racing, and that's what we're seeing still now with 24 laps to go.
Yeah, they're staying single file, which is interesting. Usually that's kind of the opposite, where the beginning of the race is calm and single file and everybody's kind of collected, and then later on in the race things get crazy. Whereas here, I feel like things were crazy early on, and that kind of opened these guys' eyes, and they kind of realized, hey, we're not going to be in the race at the end if we keep doing this. So they sorted themselves out. They're content to run single file for now. There's only so many cars in this lead pack, so if they can keep themselves separated from the guys behind them, they're pretty much guaranteed a good position no matter where they finish in this pack. And they're going to have a good shot at it. I mean, all the way back to 8th, the tail end of this lead pack here with Grosjean. I mean, give him a lap and a half. He could go from 8th to 1st with just some clever drafting. Nobody in this lead pack is out of it, and that's why they're content to stay this way until the last few laps.
Yeah, and another thing that I did notice is that the second pack is catching up to this first pack. They were about 5 seconds behind a couple laps ago now, about 3.6, 3.8 seconds behind at this point. So they are making some time. I did notice that as well on the over here when I pull this up here. They're really making time, actually. Now that I look at it, it's been green for a hot minute now.
Oh yeah, they are real in a minute. I mean, look at it. They've got the numbers, and the difference between earlier and now is they're single file. So they're actually gaining all that momentum that they should from the draft. Whereas if they were side by side and they're side drafting each other and they're pulling each other back and they're fighting, they're just slowing each other down. And that's what they were doing earlier. Now they're formed up. They're in a more uniform line, and they are reeling in these leaders. So this lead pack, they're comfortable now, but give it a few laps. I don't think they're going to be so comfortable. I think we're going to have over 15 cars in this pack.
Yeah, and then that's where we are probably going to be seeing the racing ramp up. Of course, I do expect the racing to start ramping up here relatively soon. Of course, with 22 laps to go, there's still a lot of time. That's a couple laps into one stage. These drivers went 25, 25, and for this final stage, they're going 35 laps. We already knocked out 13 of those Bad Larrys, and we're almost halfway done with this final run.
Yeah, the laps are winding down, 21 to go. Second pack still catching up to our leaders now. It's about 3.6 seconds. So little by little,
It's starting.
a few tenths here, a few tenths there. And there we go. Got a
Wow.
move lead. On his
Did you-
own, the number 5 was able to make a
Yeah.
move.
Made the move on the outside. I think he did a little bit of side drafting. That wasn't really aggressive side drafting from the 5 of Vincent Isabella. And I don't know if Westergreen maybe checked up a little to kind of let him by, but by himself, without anybody's help at all, was able to get to the outside, pass Westergreen, and clear him before he got into turns number 3. So that's something I haven't seen in a long time in any car.
And we know that this car produces a very big run. We've seen that all night long, and I guess it produces a big enough run that as long as you time it right, you can slingshot around a car or two without the help of another driver. And you're right, he didn't really aggressively side draft the leader, and I don't think Westerbrook lifted either. That was just, he got a good run, he took it, he was smart with it, and now he's got the lead. So that's going to definitely be an eye-opener for some of these guys further back in the pack. They know that the car is capable of making some pretty good moves, even if some other drivers don't jump out with them. And that was kind of one of the problems with Gen 6 at plate tracks, was you had the big spoiler. I'm going to try to refrain from quoting Dale Jr. You have the big spoiler, and it kind of acted like a parachute. The second you stepped out, unless you had 3 or 4 guys pushing you, you were going backwards. This car's not like that. You don't got that massive parachute pushing down on you, dragging you back. You can step out of line and keep that momentum.
Yeah, and we've seen drivers kind of move up to the outside line and not get help. And, you know, most of the time they kind of dip back, but sometimes they've been able to hold their own. I know there was a couple times with the Gen 6 with some updates where you could just side draft and be able to kind of drive like a safe if you had help behind you. And I know I've done that before where I've side drafted all the way back, all the way to the front of the field in official races and some league races. But, you know, this is slightly different. You do need some help, but you're not going to instantly drop like you said when Junior recorded saying those big A spoilers. But you know, you still need help here. That's the important thing. You don't want to burn any bridges. We've seen drivers like Westergreen help out massively with a bunch of drivers, earning the good graces. We've seen drivers like Ty McIntosh, not saying that he's done anything bad, but we've seen him multiple times kind of take that opening in the inside of the corner and just kind of leave other people to kind of just drop a bit as he does a somewhat aggressive move driving from the middle to the inside, hoping that the driver on the outside doesn't come down on them. But you know, maybe some drivers are keeping track of people who are doing that, seeing what's working, what's not. As Andre, the second pack's here.
They're not just here. They came with a head of steam, and actually they were able to take a few positions from our race leader. It looks like the number 90, John Eckert, is currently running, let's see, P3. Vic Bloom in second. Davis Warren, the number 79, he is going to be your race leader. So you're imagine that, seeing that in your mirror. You're the number 5, Vincent Isabella. The second pack just caught up to you, and then all of a sudden, you got this freight train on the outside that just launches themselves past you at Mach 1. I mean, that was an incredible move by these 3 drivers up front.
Yeah, it's how quickly this happens. You know, of course, they weren't there for the majority of this run, and now that they're here, they were able to immediately get the lead, couple positions, and kind of shake up this primary pack, resulting in just one massively huge one pack here. But you know, Westergreen, your stage 2 winner, Broshi, your stage 1 winner, 5th and 7th. As I gotta say, this, you know, right now it's single file again, but we're only a couple laps, a couple moves away from massive 2x2 racing. So we're gonna take a quick little audio break. We're gonna bring the noise as we're gonna listen to some of these engines purr.
And we are back from the Bring the Noise. Warren's still out front, and you got Bloom in P2, Isabella third, Johnny Eckert is in fourth, and Delicato P5. And man, oh man, looks like, yeah, we built up a bit of a gap here. The second pack has become the lead pack and made the lead pack the second pack. You don't see that very often.
I also don't even know how this happened. We're not in the middle of the race anymore. This is the end part of the race. I don't know how these guys got separated. I don't know if it was just an accident. Maybe these lead couple drivers hit the NOS button, or you know that two-car tandem's working real well for that with these multi-cars. But whatever happened, you can't be doing this late in the race. With the 83 Tom Mugo, the White Claw machine, Andrew Hess as well. They've caught back up, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they did finally catch up, and I mean, I guess that was inevitable. They did have the numbers. There was only 5 cars up front, and then a huge pack. We got a incident going on. Yellow flag on the track. Must have been a little bit further back. Not certain who's involved.
Oh, Fred Anderson, who was involved in an earlier incident where the caution didn't come out, but he did lose a bunch of time and even a lap. So unfortunate for Fred. Whatever happened. Must have been pretty big to bring out the caution.
Yeah, they were calling it out a little bit before the caution actually came out. Looks like the number 22 goes down low, and behind him, just a bad shove to Anderson. Unfortunately,
no, that wasn't a shove.
Bit.
There was drivers kind of moving up and down in the racetrack and a mismatch, and that was a quarter panel tap, I believe. Let's see if we can get an up type of view here. What happened? There was a checkup.
You may be right here. Yeah, that's a quarter panel tap.
The 23 of Sam Broshi, your stage 1 winner. Of course, this is obviously not intentional in any way. It's just a racing incident. The checkup happened as the 194 in visual here and 094 on the actual graphics. Kind of checked up for whatever was going on. 23 did the same, slightly not as harsh as the 194 did. And then also moved up slightly, and of course they made contact because at some point they were going to re-merge back up to where they were, and just that did not work out for the 194 Fred Anderson, who has some more damage, I would say, and this one could be worse than just losing a lap because he lost the draft.
Yeah, that might be a night-ending incident for Anderson.
Oh!
He had a lot of damage there.
Split field.
And here comes a lot of cars down pit road.
Yeah, that really split field. Only 5 drivers are staying out. 4 drivers staying out. The rest of the field is going down pit road. I know tires don't really mean much, and I guess if you have the fuel, you're good to go. So, how would you rate this strategy?
Well, I'd like to know how close they were on fuel. If these guys are, if they're good enough to get to the initial checkered flag, but they're questioning whether or not we're going to get a green-white checkered that maybe extends the race, that would make a lot of sense. If these guys just want to get extra fuel in the tank to make sure that no matter how many restarts we have, no matter how many green-white checkers, they can keep it going. And overall, even if they do lose some track position, I definitely think they're probably banking on getting at least one more caution, because this is going to be chaos. We got a restart at Talladega. It's going to be about 9 to go when we go green, and a lot of playoff drivers, chase drivers, that need to make up some positions and get some points here. It's going to be chaotic, to say the least.
Yeah, and 9 laps is a lot of laps at a track like Talladega, Daytona. It's not like you're running Martinsville, Bristol, where you're running 16, 20-second lap times where they're going to go by very quickly, just going to hold on for a bit. 9 laps is, at Talladega, you can go from first to last in the time it takes for you to reach turn 1. So it's, I don't really think this is that egregious of a strategy. If they can make it on fuel, tires aren't really going to matter too much. They're just gaining some more track position, putting themselves in a position where they want. It's not really that bad of a call. Of course, anybody here in this top 10, anybody here at all that's in the lead lap could win this race. Doesn't matter how many laps there are, as long as you're in the main pack, you're good to go. You have a chance of winning. So it's not really too much of an egregious strategy. But you mentioned it. If they have enough fuel, they're riding below the apron now. I'm not sure if that's just for style points, or if they're going to go down pit road. And I think that's just for style points. But we have 3 attempts at a green white checkered, so it's not unlimited, but it's also not 1 attempt at a green white checkered. That's 3 attempts, and that adds up because you got 4 or 5 laps under caution. So that your 3 attempts is that you're running close to 11, 12, maybe 13 laps under caution extra that you could be going. So if you don't have enough fuel for that, then you're going to have to pit, and that's when you don't want to give a track position when you have a green white checkered, because you want to be up closer to the front, Andre.
And I'm starting to think that maybe these guys going beneath the yellow line is not for style points. I think it may just be they're literally doing everything they can to save every drop of fuel they can, taking the shortest way around the track possible. You see some drivers going way low, taking the shorter way around the track, and maybe trying to save some fuel here, because you're right, Carlos. Those green-white checkers add up big time. The caution laps, the green flag laps in between. If these guys were close, they definitely want to be conserving, because these guys behind them, they don't have to worry about fuel. They're pretty much good to go. They just pitted. They're good for all 3 restarts and the 10 laps we're going to have to go here. So it's going to be interesting, but you're right about 9 laps is a lot of time at this track, and I think these guys' strategy was made even better by the fact that they all did it, right? If 3 guys came down pit road and they went to the very back of the field, I think, okay, well, I mean, they can get back up front, but that's definitely setting themselves back. But everybody came down pit road, so really nobody really lost any track position in pulling that strategy. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain by taking a little bit more fuel.
Yep, well, we're going to see here, we're going to have a 9-lap stretch of possible green flag racing here to finish this. And, it's Talladega. We may see a carnage here, but there's a pretty decent chance they may not even get past 1 green-white checker, just because of the fact that you're probably going to have an accident. It's probably going to be on the white flag, and iRacing does not throw out cautions under white once the white flag is out. So I got to say, this is a good strategy. Although it's probably not really much of a strategy considering how many laps you have.
Yeah, we're gonna see exactly how it all plays out. The pace car making a rather abrupt turn there to get beneath the yellow line, and he's gonna head down pit road. It's gonna be Warren still leading the way again. Just a reminder, Warren took the lead in dramatic fashion with a 3-car train coming from the second pack all the way up to the leaders and then around the leaders, eventually building up a huge gap to the cars that he had initially passed. So a ton of speed out of Warren, Bloom, and Lewis. We know these guys can work together really well. We saw it once before. Can we see it again at the end of the race as the green flag flies and Warren gets about a half a car length advantage over that 36 of Bloom? And they're going to equalize by the time they get to the entry of the corner. This is much more reminiscent of that initial start we saw, Carlos, where we stayed uniform. You mentioned it looked like they were still pacing when we went green, and we're seeing that a little bit here, except for the fact that you have a lot of pushing going on. 36 getting pushed down low off of the bumper of, I believe, the number 3 of Hong, and he's going to take the point now. Right behind him, he's got who else? But I believe that number 90 machine of Eckert trying to push him. Again, Eckert has had one of the most eventful races, I think, out of anybody tonight. Probably had to make the most saves out of anybody. And now a bold move down low. Look at that, down on the bottom line, trying to make a move on both of the leaders here. They're 3 wide behind them.
4
wide now. 5 wide. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy.
This track can definitely hold it. Can the drivers do that for sure? As we're 4 wide still throughout this whole corner. We've been 4 wide since the start of the race. It's a 10 of Ty McIntosh. I'm sure that's not where he wants to be right now, but Johnny Eckert, we're talking about how good he was doing earlier up and down, and he's currently tracking down right now, stuck in that dead man zone, that area nobody wants to be at, as he's hemorrhaging spots here left and right.
Yeah, once you get stuck in the middle there, you get stuck in that sucker hole, and you're just going straight to the back. But luckily, he's got 8 more laps to get back to the front. He's still in the lead pack, and a lot of spectators may see him drop that far back, think he's down and out, but no. That is not how Talladega is, especially with this car. Yellow flag flies again. Caution number 3 of the night. They're going to check up at the pace car
Oh,
by. Oh,
Robinson.
huge.
My hand. Oh, Ogo as well. Oh, Ogo's car is destroyed. Look at that. Their wheels locked up. I don't think I've seen that in iRacing.
Yeah, that thing is, it ain't right. Put it that way.
See what happened here.
Take a look at our 3-wide TV replay and try and figure out what transpired here. So they're 3 wide as they come through the tribal. Just coming up the track a little bit too far. Not enough real estate in the 30. An unfortunate situation there. Just kind of a bystander trying to get by and tagged into that outside wall, but ton of damage there for several cars involved. Gonna go on board now with the 30, see exactly what he saw coming through the tribal. Again, just a little bit too high. Maybe didn't expect him to be right there. And it's a driver's side hit. You see that hood get crumpled down. I'd imagine some suspension damage at the very least. Trying to pull a Ricky Bobby here, getting to the line in reverse, going pretty far backwards.
So heavy damage to a bunch of the drivers, including that 83 of Tom Ogo with that whole right front that doesn't want to work anymore. Let's take a look at a slightly different angle here. I also wanted to take a moment because you really haven't had a chance to see this. I'm always talking about this. That paint scheme on the 83, the wet claw machine, it's got that paint drip on it. It's dripping all over the place. It's also dripping on the front manufacturer's decals, and I don't know how he did that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that detail. That is pretty neat. Unfortunately, that paint is now dripping for real as he takes a hard hit to the outside right on that nose area of the car. That's going to be probably terminal damage. You see the 30 sliding up into that safer barrier. The 29, ooh, did they make contact here?
No. 29 came out relatively okay. Maybe some slight damage right there you can see. But nothing too bad as I hit the wrong... There we go. Nothing too bad. 83 is done for the night for sure. The 30, Micro Center machine, he will probably have to pay for damage, but he may be okay. But this is not going to be a green, white, checkered attack. We're probably going to be going back to green with maybe 4 to go, 3 to go. And then we're going to get back to it. But we're going to go ahead and take a small break, and we'll be right back for the finish of the race here.
And we are just about to drop the green flag. Lights are off on the pace car coming out of turn 4. And it is going to be Sam Maroshu leading the field green. And I think kind of correlating, or I would say scheming some teamwork with that 79. The 79 said, "You going to take the outside line?" The 23 said, "Yes, sir." And the other guy said, "Good." So trying to figure out where they want to start, where they want to be. Working together at these kinds of tracks is key. As we got a bit of a stack up on the bottom line, some pretty anxious bumping. The green flag is out, 23 to a pretty solid advantage here as we get to the stripe. Number 3, Min Hong, is going to maybe get ahead of the number 79, but the run stalls out. 79 is going to pull back out front here in the corner with the 74 in tow. Now Min's going to have to rely on the 54 machine to try to give him a push of Hess. Hess, a driver we haven't talked about a whole lot tonight. He's been a part of the second pack, never really been too close to the front, but as the race has wound down and he joined this lead pack, he's been pretty solidly inside this top 5, showed a lot of pace, so we'll see what he can do with these remaining laps. As the pusher is once again being pushed on that high line, Carlos. The number 3 of Min was pushing the 74 of Jake Bustos.
Oh!
Whoa! The 24 the 23, I apologize, throws a late block, has to back out of it, and now the 8. The outside line back. Oh, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Big incident here tonight. The first major one of the night. As caution is back out, we're going to have our first attempt at a green-white checkered. Has a really bad block by the 23, resulted in him kind of being stuck in that middle zone, and then resulted in him getting involved in that major incident. So I'm sure a lot of drivers may be keying up on the radio talking about that. But big incident here for the night here towards the end of the race. Let's take a look at the caution.
Now, to be fair to the 23, I don't think he necessarily did a whole lot wrong here. He tried to make a block.
No.
He backed out of it when he knew it wasn't going to work. But unfortunately, that checkup that it caused got the rest of the field riled up. And there was just not really a lot of places to go. I mean, these guys are 3 wide. They got to check up in front of them. There's only so much track to try and use to avoid it. You see he checks up right there, which is the right move to make. But the number 5 doesn't check up. He tries to take it through. And unfortunately, just a little bit of contact from Isabella is going to send him around and collect the majority of the midfield here.
Yeah, that's not what anybody expected. The Vincent Isabella in the 5 machine, I generally thought he was going to go and help the 23, and then at the very last second kind of dipped below and essentially started that with the 23 also kind of down low. Actually, that may have been Netcode that kind of pushed the 23 down low. I thought he was kind of just moving down, but let's see if I can slow it down. Because when the 5 went to the inside, I thought that the 23 kind of went down low, and that's when the contact begun. But I wonder if there was netcode that kind of pushed that. Yeah, that's netcode pushing that 23 down, or pulling that 23 down into that 5, and then kind of starting that big one. So the 5 Isabella kind of not really got any damage out of that. But 86, that 19, the 10 of Ty McIntosh, heartbreak for the kid. So a lot of contact with some of these drivers, and we're going to be going at our first attempt at a green white checkered.
How about Johnny Eckert? He got through there unscathed by what had to be inches. Cars wrecking on all sides, and after everything he's been through tonight, another close call. I mean, this guy, if he makes it to the end with that car as clean as it is now, he's got to go buy a lottery ticket.
Wow.
I mean, look at that. How do you do that?
Ooh. Let's take a look also on board of the number 6 Meat Fine machine, Zach Evans. He's definitely running Meat Fine right now, avoiding another incident here. He's kind of, whenever another incident, I think it's the first incident he's avoided. He's kind of been doing a good job of staying out of other people's messes. Usually he gets involved in a bunch of accidents that have really nothing to do with him. But this point of the race, he's got a damaged wounded car, and probably me no fine, but the Meat Fine machine, me very fine so far.
Yeah, that was a good avoidance there out of him and Johnny. They both were able to kind of see what was going on, and they picked a lane and they committed to it, which I think is pretty important when it comes to wreck avoidance at a plate track. more than anything, just pick a lane and stick to it. If you're weaving all over the place, I think you're only increasing your chances that you're going to be in the incident.
All
And
right.
both those drivers, they picked their lane. They were consistent. Go ahead.
All right, Andre. I believe we have a driver that's exiting the infield care center. I believe you're catching up to the number 86 of John O. Lynch.
John Lynch, you got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, John, involved in the big one there, cars kind of scattering everywhere, all kicked off by a little bit of contact between the 5 and the 23. Tell me about it from your perspective.
I was just pushing my teammates, and Sam went to go block the run and didn't work out, and he came down to get back in front of Barrett, and I guess Vince just kind of went for the hole that wasn't there. But that super speedway racing, you go for the gaps you can get, and yeah, nothing Sam could have done there. I was just innocent bystander.
Now, the racing tonight has been very aggressive. I mean, we've seen moves like what the number 5 has made several times tonight. That's the first time it's resulted in a large incident. How have you felt about that aggressive racing out there tonight? Is that kind of maybe not your cup of tea, or were you having fun prior to this?
As the non-playoff driver, I'm loving this, but as my teammates being playoff drivers, they were hating every minute of it. So for people like me, I love it. But if you got a championship on the line, you kind of think twice about making the dumb moves.
Difference of perspective, I suppose. If you got nothing to lose, it's a blast to go out there and just give it your all. But yeah, you're right. If you got a championship on the line and points to worry about, maybe a little bit more stressful. Well, hey John, we're sorry your race ended that way. We thank you for your time, and hopefully we catch you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was Jake Bustos. Or excuse me, that's Jake Bustos. I apologize. John Lynch. I had switched back over to Jake Bustos, your current race leader. We did have some drivers going down Perry Road, so pretty interesting to know. That was Josh Robinson. Or excuse me, I looked at the wrong thing. That's 14th and back. Some of these drivers were involved in the incident, but a lot of them maybe just went down Perry Road to get some extra fuel. But 14th and back all went down Perry Road. With you have the first of 3 of the green white checkered here in the Ad 3 White TV 225 presented by DWest.
First attempt out of 3, and having a little bit of attrition like that, some drivers out of the race, maybe going to be a little bit calmer. But I don't know how calm you could call any race at Talladega, no matter how many cars are out of the race, no matter what the surrounding circumstances and context are. I feel like you put a driver on a track like this with a car like this, and they're going to want to go flat out, and that always leads to some interesting shows that they can put on. But it's going to be Min Hong pushing the 54 of Hess, who's going to be starting second. Bustos actually is the race leader. He opted to take the outside line. He's got the 97 pushing him. DJ Weeks trying to maybe work his way around these guys. The 79 behind him. Another driver that's been up front quite a bit tonight, Paul Hamus. He has been up front pretty much the majority of the night. Hasn't led too many laps, but definitely shown some speed as the green flag flies. That outside line gets really formed up really fast. That gives him a bit of a speed advantage getting into the corner, but a little bit of shuffling there, and it's going to go 3 wide. The number 4 dipping underneath the 79. He's got Eckert in tow, and now we got to see what is going to happen. What is going to become of this outside line, because they do not have the numbers. They do not have the help, but the bottom line is getting a little bit chaotic here. The number 4 again trying to move down another lane, make it 3 wide again, just like he did in turn 2. And it's going to work again, gaining another position on the number 3. There's a car in the wall. The 74 has scraped the outside wall. Didn't lose too much momentum, but he's able to keep it going as the number 74, Jake Bustos, gets a huge shot from the 79. 3 wide for second place and a run to the lead. 74, 79 locked at the bumper, tandem drafting to the point. And we are going to take the white flag. Can we get there? This is it. The race is official at this point. No more green-white checkers. This is it for the end.
Yeah, fantastic move. Everybody's side by side at this point. I really do not know who's going to get the win. Ming Hong, your pole sitter, pushing through right now on the number 79 of Bear Paul Hemus. That outside line starting to get a move. Jake Bustos, Davis Warren out there. Middle line to 97, including the Ford Nick and the Nakano. Contact in the back. They're going to wreck across the field.
Huge wreck in the back. Up front, a big block from the 79. The 74 makes contact. They're wrecking up front. The 79 still in the lead as this number 74 spins behind him. Davis Warren in second place. He's got a huge run coming. The start-finish line is not until the end of the trioval, and the 97 is pushing him hard. Big block by the 79. Can he pull it off? 2 blocks, more contact behind. They're wrecking for a 3rd time, but it is going to be, wow, Barrett Paul Hamus with 2 incredibly risky blocks, somehow makes it work, and he has won at Talladega.
Wow, I don't even know where to start. M&M Gaming Channel saying wild finish on the chat. Beth Lockwood saying good job, Barrett. Barrett Paul Hamus getting the dub here. 2nd race of the chase. And just pop up here the standings before the race began. And he's going to be shown. Barrett Paul Hamus, actually 2nd place, only 6 points to Nick and Delicado. Nick and Delicado finished 17th. Another disappointing end to Nick and Delicado's chase hopes. He got involved in an incident chase race number 1. Got involved in a wreck here in chase race number 2. And I hate to say this, but the number 4, all that magic may possibly be gone, as he is now in not going to be your points leader. I think it's safe to say he's not going to be your points leader now.
Yeah, unless he racked up an absurd amount of bonus points early in the race, which I don't think he would have been able to get enough. I definitely think Barrett Paul Hamus has taken the points lead. Again, that's unofficial. After the race, the admins will go through and update the points completely, but just doing some head math, it seems like he is the new points leader. He's going to do a big burnout there. Huge slide across the line. He was definitely excited over the driver's radio when he got this win here, Carlos. That's a happy driver.
Yeah, let's go over the final race results. I was looking around to see who got involved in incidents, who don't. And I'm going to do the best I can to maybe go over some of these incidents. I know not all of them registered on my telemetry software here, so that's gonna suck if I miss one of them. But let's take a look here at the race results. We saw Barrett Paul Hamus, number 79, getting the victory here. DJ Weeks DJ Weeks finishing in 2nd. Ming Hong, your pole sitter, finishing in 3rd. Johnny Eckert in 4th. Another great run by Johnny Eckert. Consistency is starting to build up. Davis Warren 5th. Daniel Lewis 6th. Seth Rawls finishing in 7th. John Navarro 8th. David Westergreen, tonight's race sponsor, in 9th. And Zach Evans in the Me Fine Machine, Me Very, Very Fine there in 10th place.
Andrew Hess, after starting in row 2 on that final restart, drops back to P11. Gilberto Javier is going to finish P12, followed by Dallas Myhan, Joshua Robinson in 14th. Sam Brochu, stage 1 winner, brings it home P15. Vincent Isabella is going to be 16th. Nick Indelicado, our points leader going into the race, with another disappointing chase performance, is going to be in P17. Behind him in 18th, you got Fred Anderson, Jake Bustos in 19th, and 20th is going to go to Vic Bloom.
The other in-car reporter, actually, the first one is the 10 of Zach Evans, but Ty McIntosh, another in-car camera, I should say. 21st, disappointing night from him, getting involved in that last incident. Tom Ogo in 22nd, Frank Hughes 23rd, John Lynch in 24th, and the drivers that were involved in the first caution, Giovanni Occhipinti, Joey Hickox, and Adam Kulikowski, finishing 25th, 26th, and 27th, multiple laps down. So disappointment for a couple playoff drivers, or chase drivers I should say, but very, very a lot of excitement for the number 70 of Barrett Paul Hamus getting that victory. And I believe we're going to be catching up with your 3rd place finisher, Ming Hong, as Andre, take it away.
Ming Hong, you had a copy, sir? Mr. Hong, you had a copy?
Hello, testing, hello.
Hey, I got you.
We got you.
There you go.
Well, sir, anytime you roll up to Talladega, it's a bit of a wild card. You never really know what's going to happen, where you're going to finish, and I think a lot of drivers are really just coming to this track with the idea in their mind, I want to have a good points day, and, well, you had a good points day. You had a really solid run. I mean, up front all night long. I can't tell you how many times we were talking about you on the broadcast. You never really fell back outside of the top 10. And through all the chaos in the last few laps, you got her home on the podium.
Yeah, this place is kind of like my iRacing home, I guess. Like, first time I signed up, this was the first track I joined, and, ever since I just, kept joining, like, hosted races with Talladega, and over time I just got really good at what I did, and you know, coming into this race was just I guess it really did feel like home. Like I didn't feel nervous or anything like I do most other races. This one I was like, okay, I got this in the bag. I know exactly what I need to do, and yeah, just managed the race all day, made sure we didn't get caught up in anything, and it was a wild last lap, but we managed to bring it third, so I'm very happy with what we can do.
Now, you mentioned how calm you felt throughout this race. Do you think that level-headedness maybe helped you to make better decisions on the fly on the track and kind of keep yourself out of trouble?
Absolutely, because the whole race, I think it was just a lot of people being super aggressive trying to get to the front. Like if you wanted to hang in the bottom, they would pass you on the top, and if you went to the top, they would pass you on the bottom. So it's just seeing the aggressiveness and it's like, hey, let's just stay in one lane because they're gonna wreck anyways. So might as well see it coming and not put ourselves in a bad position.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on the podium. Before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or thank?
No one in particular. Actually, no. Shout out to Daniel. He helped me out a lot through this race. We were pushing him, and he pushed us, and you know, he just stuck with us throughout the day. And I can't thank him enough. He's pretty good. I raced with him a lot, so yeah, really good guy.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I also
And
got to
that
point
was your
out.
third place finisher. Go ahead.
No, I gotta point out that completely forgot. Bear Pahimis actually also won the first race of the chase, so he's 2 for 2 in chase racing. Is he the new Nick Carter right now? It seems so because he's perfect so far in the chase, 2 in a row, and for sure I think he's got that race lead marked down. But you just heard right here from Ming Hong finishing third. Your pole sitter for the night, so he's obviously a very happy driver right now. I'm sure he wanted to get that win. But finishing third in a very chaotic last 2 laps has got to be, you know, pretty good for him, I gotta say. Now I'm gonna be catching up here with your second place finisher, DJ Weeks, and DJ ended up finishing second here at a somewhat, well, it's not really somewhat, very chaotic race, although chaotically clean, I should say, for the majority. The first 3/4 of the race, and then of course we got involved in a couple incidents there in those last couple of laps, and very chaotic last lap. But what was going on through your head those last 2 laps?
I have no idea. I don't like plate racing at all. I guess it's not really plate racing anymore. Whatever the package is, I can't stand it, man. Like people are slamming into you. I'm trying to push a guy, getting hit from behind. I'm like, and then people are dancing with these cars. I'm like, holy crap! So I was just hoping to survive, and somehow I think I got killed across start finish line, but I finished second somehow.
Yeah, and this is a good finish here for your chase fight here. So far, 2 races in. How do you think that's looking for you so far?
I don't know if I'm necessarily competing for the championship. There's some really good guys here, but I'm just trying to get our solid runs. I think I've had a really rough stretch last few weeks, making self-inflicted errors. I think Charlotte, I caught the commitment line coming out of pit road and got a penalty, and Dover, I wrecked myself. One of the fastest cars on the track. Just trying to finish races. If I get close enough, cool. If not, I'm just out here having fun now.
Yeah, well, so we got Kansas next week. And you know, what's your opinion on that track?
Well, I think like most people, I've never ran there in this car, so I know it's fun in the ARCA car. You can run the wall and stuff, but I don't know how this car is going to be. Who knows? You know, depending on the tires. Sometimes you have to push hard to get all the tires. Sometimes you have to back the pace way down, like Charlotte. I have not a clue anymore with this thing. It's so mind-boggling how this car races at this point in the service.
Before I let you go, was there anything you feel like you could have done different on that last couple 100 yards to maybe get that win? It was very close.
No. As soon as you pull out a line, it's like you hit a wall. I mean, the car just drops like 10 miles per hour. And I wish we didn't wreck, but I mean, you're just fighting for where you can. But I think Barrett had that in control with the way the bubble works in this car. You just can't get to people unless someone's behind you. So I knew I was trying to push the 70 out in front, but I think he got blocked pretty hard. I was just a passenger at that point.
Yeah, well said. Well, you got any shout outs you want to give out?
Yeah, thank you guys for broadcasting it. Appreciate it. I'm Sorry, his name was funny in the chat. But thanks for stepping in for Will. Hopefully Will's okay. Hopefully you're okay too. I know you live in Florida.
Yeah, no, it's missing us fully.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to come up the East Coast a little bit to get me, but hopefully we'll be all right. Thanks to Johnny and helping me run this league. Thanks to Manny Rays for sponsoring this. I'm not sure they got shout outs last few weeks, but yeah, thanks for them for helping us out. And then of course on the car, Pro Air and Autism Speaks couldn't do without them guys.
All right, thank you so much, DJ. Good luck next week at Kansas.
Y'all have a good night.
All right, and I believe, Andre, you're catching up with tonight's winner and Mr. Perfect here in the chase, Barrett Paulhemus.
Barrett Paulhemus, you got a copy?
I got you now, boys. How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good, but I think you're doing even better, Barrett. I tell you what, that last lap had me on the edge of my seat. You threw, I believe, 2 blocks that, for all intents and purposes, should have spun you out with how hard you were hit on the back end. By some grace, you were able to hold on to that car. I mean, just an awesome piece of driving. And you walked away with a checkered flag. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a lot happened in that last like 10 laps or so. So I 1 second I had teammates in Sam and John, and then all of a sudden I didn't. I was kind of by myself, and I restarted 6 for the green light checker, and I got kind of shuffled out there. So wasn't looking too good for me. And then the top lane, very top lane, got going. So I was able to push the 74 out to a big lead. Or not a big lead, but get him clear where I was going to be able to tuck underneath him. And I thought it may not have worked, because then I thought I was going to fall back. But luckily the inside line caught me in time. I was able to get pretty good push going. I'm usually not a good blocker, so I'm surprised I wasn't wrecked in 3 and 4 whenever that happened. So I thought I had it then, but then Davis had a run on me, a huge run on me, and I had to throw the block of my life to get him to stay behind me. And I have no idea how it worked. I have no idea, but it did, thankfully, and we wound up in victory lane because of it. So, yeah, just an overall roller coaster night. I mean, shoot, it's gonna take me a while to come down from it. Yeah, it was a really fun race with an even better finish for me. So, I'm happy we could get it done.
Now, going back to what you called the block of your life, that was a big impact. Were you able to feel that in the force feedback of the wheel?
Yeah, a little bit. I had to do some sawing to get it to really work for me. Luckily, I was hit square enough to where I wasn't gonna get absolutely plowed, you know. So, yeah, that was good. It was a good square hit. I felt like it was like perfectly placed there. It couldn't have been more. It hardly could have been better than that. So, yeah, just awesome.
Awesome indeed. Again, it was an absolute blast to watch. Now, before the relatively chaotic last few laps, we had a lot of green flag racing, and a lot of it was very aggressive. You guys were going 2-3 wide most of the night, and you were able to run up front for a while. You kind of went to the back, then back up to the front. What did it take to keep that 79 car clean and out of trouble? What was the strategy there?
Well, the strategy from the beginning was, well, I didn't qualify very well. My teammate Sam and Jo, we were planning on just riding out the first 5 laps and seeing how it went, and it was a little rowdy for our taste. So we dropped to the back and just kind of rode around there until it came time to race for the first stage, and then we really got up there. We found out that the third lane really works really well if you have the right people pushing. So we were able to use that to our advantage really all the race. So that was part of it, was being able to make our moves really quickly and not having to race too much. And another part of it was just looking and seeing where people are getting squirrely and dicey and trying to avoid them as much as possible, and then just strategically working our way forward. We had to do it fast and quick, and that's what we were able to do. So Yeah, it was stressful. I didn't like it. Looking back on it, I'm sure it was pretty fun. It's probably the most eventful plate race I've ever been a part of. So, I mean, yeah, how we didn't have more wrecks is beyond me. But it was a great job by everyone out there to race aggressive and clean, and it was really fun to be a part of, and especially keeping it that clean too. Like, we had so many lead changes and position changes back and forth every single lap. It was frustrating in the car at some times because I just wanted to like stay there, you know, and not race too much for position. But sometimes it's just what you got to do, as that's just a product of this type of racing. So you got to adapt to it the best you can, and it seems like we did a pretty good job of that.
Speaking of doing a good job, you are now 2 for 2 in chase wins. And I believe, and this is unofficial, the actual points will come out later, as you know, but Carlos and I are under the impression that you should walk away with a points lead. How's the outlook going forward in the chase?
Well, it's looking pretty good if we can keep this up. Yeah, the chase definitely is an interesting format, so you got to play it right. Yeah, luckily we've been able to score really, really good points the first 2 races and walk away with the win. So hopefully this keeps going our way. Like I said, I knew we've been quick enough to be up here all year. We just haven't really gotten a chance to show it yet. Now we're getting a chance to show them. So it looks like Kansas is the next race on the schedule, so I'm feeling pretty good about that one. So hopefully we'll be able to carry this momentum in to Kansas, and if we don't win, just hopefully bring home some solid points again and hopefully solidify our lead.
All right. Well, again, congratulations on the win. Before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Turtle Cove Apparel Company, and my team owner, J.O. Lynch, who was helping us out tonight. And he's got his girlfriend and I believe some of his family watching, so hi. And it's his dad's birthday today, so happy birthday to John Lynch Sr. So yeah, it was good to bring the win home for them, and couldn't do it without him.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Barrett, and we're going to let you go celebrate.
All right, 10-4, y'all have a good one.
You too.
All right, I think that's pretty much going to give it out here for us here tonight. We're already down 2 races of the 6-race chase battle here for the Dynasty Stock Car Racing Series. Very, very hard battles pretty much the whole race, with the small exception of after stage 2 ended until like the green flag stops, where it was mostly single file between everybody, but the whole night in general was side-by-side battles, people pushing, people shoving, blocking, and everything. I generally am surprised we only had 4 cautions overall tonight. But Andre, what was your takeaway here for this race that you hopped in here?
Well, my takeaway is that this was a very unique plate race. You know, like I said, all the plate races that I've commentated this year, especially with the next gen car, it hasn't been very racy. You know, it seems like there's a lot of single file, kind of freight train type racing. These guys wanted to race. I mean, they came to this track, they wanted to get points, they wanted to put on a show, and they did. This was honestly one of the most fun Talladega races I think I've seen all year, and I got to give these guys massive props.
All right, well, thanks, Andre, and thank you again for filling in last minute. Well, I know you're watching out there. Hope you're staying safe. Hurricane Nicole's on its way making landfall here very soon, I believe, if it hasn't already begun. So hopefully you stay safe. Hopefully everybody stays safe that's out there in that area. And Andre, thank you so much for coming in. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And well, we hope you all have a great night. And we will see you next week at Kansas for playoff race or chase race number 3. See if Bear Behemoths can go 3 for 3 here in the playoff race or chase races, or if somebody else can take over. I want to see if Nick and Delicado is if the magic is gone or if he's going to come back. But anyway, tune in next week and we shall see what's going to happen.